Thank you to the Moving the Needle corporate sponsors, Home Infusion Options and Metro Infusion Center, and our exhibitors, Takeda, Janssen, and Bristol-Myers Squibb. You share our mission of advancing patient care and make events like this and our grant making possible.
So we're going to move on to the second portion of tonight, and it's my pleasure to introduce my partner and friend, Eugene Chang, to come to the podium, and he's going to moderate and run the next session. Gene is a world-renowned investigator in GI physiology and in the microbiome, and has been at the University of Chicago for the majority of his career at this point, and has led the world in understanding how the microbiome might explain some of what we do, but he's continuing on and has told me he won't retire until we cure IBD. Something like that. So I'm holding him to his word, and you should all do that too.
Thanks, David. It's a pleasure to be here, and I want to thank GERF for this continuous support of our programs. So I was asked to talk about this new campaign that we're going to start on regenerative medicine in digestive diseases. But before that, I want to explain what these campaigns are about. They're different from the kind of funding that you give to individual investigators. These are moonshot projects. Okay? They're meant to be transformative. They're meant to have some risk. It goes into a space that others have not been there before. And just to show you the return on investment of the 3 previous campaigns, one starting in 1992 called CellTech. So this was really meant to bring our section into this age or era of molecular biology. All these new tools were coming on that allowed us to look at cells in a very, very different way. And what that did was it really brought in a lot of new investigators, not only in GI, but in other fields, and to create these core facilities that were necessary to do these kinds of studies. And these were discovery tools. And what resulted from that is that it gave us the foundation, the infrastructure to compete for these, they're called NIH P30 digestive disease research core centers. So the initial fundraising by Dr. Kersner raised $250,000 to get us started. In the next 30 years that we've had this, this digestive disease center funded by the NIH, we have been cumulatively funded for about $30 million because it's a little over $1 million each year, and we've been continuously funded for 30 years. That's a huge return on investment. The next investment that was made was really to begin to use these new tools in genetics, in the study of human genetics. And this effort began in 1999 when Dr. Kersner asked me, well, what should we be doing? How can we really make a difference in IBD? And at that time, I said, we should get into the genetics, but we should do it in a very, very different way from what other people were doing. And through the investigations of a very talented investigator, Judy Tro, we actually, she discovered the first Crohn's disease gene that was associated with increased risk of disease. Now that return on investment was enormous because it really launched this genetics program at the NIH, which I have to estimate is conservatively $30 million. And so that was also a very good return on an initial $1 million fundraising. So that led to the subsequent development or discovery of over 300 risk genes for inflammatory bowel diseases. And so this was hugely transformative because now we gained insight into the genetic basis of IBD. The next campaign really stemmed from the fact that the first gene that was identified for Crohn's disease was a gene that encodes a protein that recognizes and interacts with these trillions of microbes that live in our gastrointestinal tract, the microbiome. And so in 2003, I told Steve Hanauer, this is something that we have to get started. We need to really develop the program because we had to really understand this dark matter, literally speaking. That way we could see the other side of what might be causing IBD. So we launched a campaign, we raised $1 million, and we built the infrastructure for the microbiome research at the University of Chicago, not just within GI, but all of the university. And this included, for example, this germ-free facility that we developed, which was an enormous enabling technology that allowed us to answer questions that we thought we could never answer. And that actually laid the infrastructure and groundwork for the development of the Duchossois Family Institute. And that brought in over $100 million. Again, a very good return on investment. Now, regenerative medicine was the next campaign that we like to propose. And basically, this is when David came to Mike Charlton and me to ask, well, what's the next moonshot? And we thought, well, it's really in regenerative medicine. So if you look at how things have gone in medical research, we have developed very good diagnostic tools. We have very good treatments, particularly for inflammatory bowel diseases and liver diseases. But nobody has really thought about how we're going to regenerate, restore, or rebuild damaged tissue. That is absolutely important. In fact, the definition of going into remission is that there has to be evidence of endoscopic or histologic remission. So wound healing. So I think that this is a very ambitious project, but one that is really the future of where our section should go. So let me end here and just introduce our next few speakers.